What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're gonna go over 5 performance modifications that every A90 Toyota Supra really needs to have. I've now had my 2020 Supra for like 10 or 11 months now, a little bit over 5,000 miles, and less than $3,000 worth of mods, and this car is a pretty ridiculous sports car now. It is drastically different from the stock version. And I've done just a few little things, nothing too crazy, nothing obviously to even break the bank. And this car can smoke a ton of cars and is an absolute blast to drive. I am blown away with it. So first and foremost, we're gonna talk about handling, and I have a set of H&R lowering springs. Now I was blown away with honestly how good these things were. The stock suspension, day one owning this car, when I first hit 100 miles an hour, and yeah, of course I did that day one, I wasn't exactly impressed with the car's handling at 100. The whole car just felt floaty and just really weird. I wasn't used to a car doing that at 100 miles an hour, especially this car. It shouldn't feel weird at 100. It just was really weird. And with these springs, these are H&R springs like I said, they've lowered the car 1 inch all around, and as you can see with the wheel gap, these are the factory tires. We have like 1 finger of wheel gap, really good up front. And then of course I have aftermarket wheels with better offsets so the wheels are nice and flush. But if we also take a look at the rear, as far as the wheel gap and everything, we got a little bit more wheel gap, about 1.5 fingers worth, so it sits really good. I think this setup is just perfect all around. And more importantly on looks, because looks isn't everything, the handling has improved so much. With this spring setup, they're a little bit stiffer than stock. The ride quality is still the same. In normal mode, I think day one I could kind of notice it was slightly stiffer, but after that it felt normal to me because it wasn't that crazy. So in normal mode, it still drives normal, comfortable, all the good stuff. When you're in sport mode, the magnetic dampers stiffen up, of course, and the car gets nice and stiff. But the thing I really like is, given that we have a lower center of gravity and the stiffer spring rate, high speeds, the car is hunkered down feeling, it's planted feeling. It feels like it should have come like this from the factory. Toyota probably fixed that with the 2021. I know they did some suspension revisions, and this is probably similar to what they did, just stiffer spring rate in the springs. So that is a huge plus. They were like 350 bucks. And I guess on top of point number 1, I would suggest better wheels with better offset because it makes the fitment look way better. So number 1 on the list is definitely a set of lowering springs. I'm very happy with these ones. On to point number 2, let's pop the hood for this one. So as we talk about the power, let's open up the hood and check out the 3-liter single turbocharged 6-cylinder engine. So to move on to the other 3 points after point number 2, to get there, we need to talk about tuning. So point number 2 is your engine tuning. Now there are a ton of different tuners out there. There's ones that they can email you stuff and you use your phone to flash it. There's all sorts of things. I'm running with EcuTech, and I've been dyno tuned with Soho Motorsports in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I am very happy with everything. I've seen a lot of really good things from EcuTech, and a lot of other tuners and tune companies don't seem to have as good of numbers and performance feel and all that good stuff compared to them. I'm not trying to be biased, but just from my own experience and people who have had other tuners then dynoed on the same dyno that my car was on, my car was doing better. So clearly EcuTech, they took their time with it. They're one of the last tuners to actually come to market, and it shows. So with the tuning of this car, this BMW engine is honestly like a 600 horsepower engine from the factory. The way BMW and Toyota have tuned it for when they're put into these different cars that it's in, they basically set all these limits on it to where the actual engine is way down from where it really can be. And with the tuning, the first thing they did was just erase those limits. And this engine can clearly handle a lot of power, so taking away the factory limits is what got you so much more power. And tuning alone, you're looking at like 75 more wheel horsepower and wheel torque from just ECU. No bolt-on parts or anything like that. And that's pretty impressive. You don't really see that on a lot of engines. So tuning is point number 2. You absolutely need that. You can do different maps and all sorts of fun things. But that opens up to where the bolt-on parts make a huge difference, because if you do all the bolt-on parts, it won't change your horsepower whatsoever because the way this ECU is set up. So tuning is number 2. Number 3 now, which was the first modification I did, almost the first, is this right here. This is my MST Performance Cold Air Intake. It's roughly 300 something bucks, so nothing crazy again. As far as the fun stuff, it sounds so good. There is so much turbo noise. When you let off the gas, you hear the blow off, the recirc, all that noise is crazy. Slowly accelerating, you can hear the turbo spooling. It gives you that fun factor that this car needed. This thing desperately needed more noise from stock. You just didn't hear anything good. Now it sounds like a turbo car, which is what you want. And with that, of course, we're going back to point number 2 with the tuning. This intake actually picked up literally 30 more wheel horsepower than the stock airbox. When I compared it to Soho Supra compared to mine. We had similar peak power numbers, but after 5,500 RPM, my car kept going while theirs was dipping.
414 to 442. So wow. A good amount on the top end.
So an intake with this bigger diameter piping, the turbo can just breathe so much better at higher RPMs. So you absolutely need that. It'll just make the top end a heck of a lot better. So now that was point number 3. We got 2 more points here, kind of together, but still a little different. Point number 4 is your downpipe. So that is the pipe right there bolted to your turbocharger. That is your factory catalytic converter. For emissions, of course, it's there from the factory. It also robs you of a lot of power and some good sounds. So with this, I have an A90 garage downpipe. It is catless. It is just a big metal pipe. I think it's 4.5 inches, 5 inches, something around there. It's basically the same diameter as the turbo outlet itself. So with that, and with the tuning, of course, that really does pick you up another almost 50 horsepower from just the ECU tuning with that restriction gone. And that definitely, you can feel it. You can feel the extra power, especially with the downpipe. And when this car first came out, a downpipe and a tune was the biggest thing people were doing. And just those 2 mods alone, you're talking about 100 more wheel horsepower and like 110, 150 wheel torque, depending on tuning. My car is currently sitting with 100 more wheel horsepower and 160 more wheel torque. And that torque is a heck of a lot of fun. So with all that said, we are now on to point number 5. The 5th thing I would really recommend is a legit catback exhaust system. So this rest of your exhaust is going to bolt to that downpipe. Of course, we're catless, so it's technically not a catback anymore. But this is the AWE Resonated Touring Catback Exhaust System. This is actually one of the quietest exhaust systems on the market. I don't want a straight piped annoying drone car that's just ridiculously annoying. I wanted something that had an aggressive tone, a more mature tone, and of course sounded good under boost. And with this setup, you guys saw the full review. There's no drone. It sounds almost stock when you're cruising, but still has that good performance sound. But then when you're hitting it, it rips. It's like a baby GTR almost. I love the sound. A lot of people do just the downpipe with stock exhaust. That's personal preference. I think it doesn't sound good. I think it sounds like a tin can. If you like it, of course, that's up to you. It's all personal preference. But I think an upgraded exhaust, especially this one, I like a lot. There are a lot that have the Valvetronic. You can open and close the valves, which is a great option. This does not have that at all. The factory system does have an exhaust flap, but if you guys saw an old video from earlier in the year, I believe, the actual valve doesn't do anything. It's all fake. The car has fake engine sounds, which I have turned all off, so I don't have any of that stuff anymore. So now my car simply makes the real noises, none of the fake speaker noises coming through. You hear the real turbo, the real exhaust, and it makes a world of difference. Now the catback exhaust isn't going to add you any power, but I think it just adds to the drama of the car, because if your car doesn't sound performance-y and muscular, I just think it kills it for it. Like my stock GTR, when it was stock, the exhaust didn't sound that good. And for being a supercar killer in performance, that was kind of a letdown given how bad that car sounded stock. But now with this setup, I think everything sounds amazing. And then going back to tuning, the power, 450 and 560 at the wheels, it's ridiculous. So with all that said, those are 5 performance mods you really should get, because it completely turns this car from a good sports car to a high performance sports car for honestly a bang for the buck. This is a bang for the buck car now that it is tuned. I think stock, it was missing so many goodies. And then on top of those 5, there's better things you can do and more things you can do, like wider tires to compensate for the added power. You can do e-blends. I'm all on 93 octane, so you can do e-blends, meth injection, water injection, stuff like that. And then of course other things that you want to do. But I think that's about it. Just a quick video summing up 5 mods that I've done to the car, performance mods, and I really think it makes the car night and day better, like literally 10 times better. But if you guys enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button if cars like this are what you like to see. I'll see you guys next video.